All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go for CEO channel. This is John, the bomb, as I affectionately say. The Building Others Means Business is that acronym. And, we've been building a great momentum on the Go for CEO channel. Recently had all different types of CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs. And today we have a very special guest. Turns out I get referred to her, and she lives in the backyard, like in the same neighborhood, right? Naperville, Illinois. So exciting stuff. What a powerful lady. Owns multiple businesses in media and in author of 29 books. She's a pilot, a licensed pilot. She was just telling me offline that she's got this cool way of kind of relating business to being a pilot. So stay tuned. By the way, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it on LinkedIn and some of the other platforms as well. And let's get this Go for CEO community buzzing. So Jacqueline Ruiz, ¿cómo estás? Welcome to the Go for CEO channel.
Oh my God, I'm doing amazing, especially now that we're here, finally making this amazing conversation happen. I spot a connector, a visionary, and a servant leader when I see it. And you're one of those amazing people in the world. So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm honored that you had invited me to be part of this series. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you. Obviously, I feel the same, right? When you see good people and you kind of want to be able to build that familiarity, comfort, and trust with them to hopefully do business for the rest of your life, right? So awesome stuff. Well, hey, here at the Go for CEO community, what we basically love to start with is just kind of that initial story, right? How you got into entrepreneurship, a little bit of your background, just were you in corporate America at all? A little bit of that, and then kind of set the base so that I can ask some questions so people can really learn, what you're doing day to day with operations and marketing and sales and scaling and all the great things that you do. So tell us a little bit about the background and take it away.
Thank you. I was born in the biggest city in the world, most populated city in the world back then, Mexico City, and born to two entrepreneurial parents. It's always like a mouthful, right? Entrepreneurial. And just kind of witnessing the magic of creating things out of thin air, right? With ideas. And I started getting involved with amazing literature from, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, Agmandino, just all the different leaders on personal development. And, as I read the concept as a young girl, I must have started reading these books at 5 years old. And, I didn't understand, so over the years, I read them again and again and again. And I would ask myself, if they're applying these principles, this means that they work because they're in a book format. And if they're in a book format, and if I take them out of the book and I apply them to life, will that do the same thing for me? And so that was my ongoing quest to be autonomous, to be an adult, and to be able to apply all these amazing core values to the real world and see if they actually worked. So I became what I always call a test or an experiment of personal development. I wanted to see, especially I think I was in the best circumstance to make this happen because my mom, my parents, they didn't come from money. So I didn't grow up, with excess or having abundance in any way. So struggling, right? Surviving poverty and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, I can apply that. And then I just started realizing that they actually worked, but they didn't work in the way that I thought they were going to work. I thought it was going to be like a formula. You apply that and you're abundant for the rest of your life. But instead, it has been an amazing journey of positivity, an amazing journey of grit, an amazing journey of service, an amazing journey of awareness, of self-management, self-analyzing, growing, learning, applying, and which is basically what I've done for my 2 businesses, my 29 books, and of course, becoming one of the few Latina sports airplane pilots in the United States. And, learning English, then learning German in English, and then learning the pilot language in English with the techniques that I use for German, and then now learning Japanese with all of the ones that preceded that.
Jeez. All right, man. We are talking to a special woman here. So Awesome, awesome. I love that. As much as you didn't have abundance per se in the physical sense, right? I think your mind started becoming abundantly clear that there was more to life and bigger things available. And reading these books, I've actually been kind of encouraging my 10-year-old at around 7 years. She loves to read, the voracious reader. So she's my oldest one, and I've been kind of sneaking in some books that I prefer, like Power of Thinking Big, or whatever, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all that type of stuff. So interesting to kind of hear how you develop that abundance mindset. So neat. So tell us, I mean, obviously you come from Mexico City, a beautiful, big, robust city in the world, and come to America. You settle in. What are some things that, based on what you knew of your parents, the entrepreneurial side, this big mindset of abundance that you learned, what are some of the initial things that you start looking at when you start thinking of starting your business?
I think the two biggest principles that were engraved, not only in my mind, they were engraved in my heart to this date. One is the principle that everything you'll ever achieve will be with people, for people, and through people. So that brings me to the core of human relations, which is really the tenure, the motto of Dale Carnegie, right? He developed 31 principles to augment human relations. And if you can do that, you can pretty much achieve anything. Then from Zig Ziglar, I learned another principle that, again, has been engraved in my heart, in my mind, in everything I do, which is when you help enough people achieve what they want, you'll without a doubt achieve what you want. And it is an indirect way, the way that we are used to in a capitalistic world, right? We're thinking you are the driver of your dreams. And even as a pilot, I think I'm the pilot in command. I mean, I'm in charge of this aircraft and my passengers. So it's almost counterproductive to think that, in fact, for you to become a millionaire and for you to achieve this in life or success, you need to do it for others first. So it's almost like indirect and an oxymoron in a lot of ways. And I think, early on, I learned, and these two formulas were so engraved in my heart and my mind that, I was patient. I said, eventually the abundance to the physical world is going to break. And I ended up becoming an entrepreneur, at the age of 23, and I became a millionaire at the age of 37. From that young girl in Mexico that, never dreamt of being a pilot, never dreamt of anything else except, making a difference in the lives of other people. I've been blessed to witness the fruits and the cadence of, the physical abundant world as well, as much as I have been experiencing the joy and the love and the service, from, even my experience in surviving cancer. To me, that is the moment that awakened, this whole sense of urgency to serve. So I put all those principles on nitro at the age of 23.
Wow.
Unbeknownst to me, here I am.
That's awesome. I mean, look, you so much wisdom in those words. I think sometimes it goes over people, the way that you were speaking there, right? Only because they're so in their day-to-day, they're so in their minutia, they have like these little blinders on, right? And I think part of the Go for CEO community and why I got inspired to even create the channel is, you're someone that, it may not be like a huge name, right? As far as, let's say like Mark Cuban or whatever, something like that. But it's interesting how impactful you've been. And this little girl from Mexico City is now just like changing the world in what you're doing, right? So it's really cool. So tell us a little bit about, just kind of to go back to the businesses, right? You said at 23, obviously you battled this, horrible disease, called cancer that a lot of us get affected by. Your mindset shifts. You've done some things, I'm assuming, in the business world, but what made you think of the business that you ultimately started, just to give us a little bit of insight on that?
I was working in sales. I think, this drive to connect with other people. And that's the same thing that I applied coming to the States and not knowing a word of English. I was thinking, how am I going to be able to help enough people achieve their dreams if I cannot even communicate and understand what their dreams are? So I started reading the back of shampoos and all of that stuff to teach myself English along with school, because I'm like, I need to accelerate the process of understanding and communicating, because that's the key to success. So then I learned, like I said, German and English and all of that. And so imagine, I'm 23 years old. Just 9 years before that, I had just arrived to the United States without a word of English. And here I am at 23, starting a marketing communications agency in the land of dreams, and what I've always wanted to do. But my journey started with sales, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something magical about marketing, which is also kind of includes a little bit of sales, but really my job is not for them to sign the contract. My job is for me to create an environment of inspiration so that I can activate hearts and minds. What do they need to see? What do they need to hear? What do they need to touch? What do they need to, be compelled to do in this creative mindset to create that environment? And that's what I love marketing so much. But, it was certainly a challenge, right? I started surrounding myself with people that spoke the language, the people that were experts in English. And I'm like, this is not going to stop me from doing that. And unfortunately, when I say, right when I started the company, I was probably 5 months into it. And I had just given birth to my first baby as well. And from a previous cancer diagnosis at the age of 21, they had told me that I was not going to be able to have children. So I already started living in that purpose, when I was 21, but it wasn't life or death. It was complicated, to have high risk pregnancies, but I didn't feel death close. I just used a lot of those techniques to get over that hump, the first time. The second time, however, it was pretty intense. And I was told that I might not live, or that I might be fed out of a tube for the rest of my life, as they found precancer level 4 by my liver. And they basically had to restructure my entire digestive system. I mean, I look at it like an alien. If you had an x-ray, and like, okay, that's not a digestive system. That's like from another planet, right? But that's what afforded me to be alive. And, and another time with maybe a tequila on the side, I'll tell you all this story. But the most important thing is the profound micro moment that created in my life, and the profound connection to my mission in life, and deciding, what, if I died tomorrow, I want to make sure that my son knows who I am. And that's when I decided writing books, and I decided sharing my story, and I decided opening up, even though every time I opened up in the context of entrepreneurship to share my story, what started to make me different and unique, this sense of urgency to serve other fellow entrepreneurs and businesses, is one of the key ingredients that started to get me noticed. And then I became an author, and it's like, wow, she's doing things that are not yielding, they're not producing immediate results, not, immediate gratification. She's doing things that are planting seeds, creating a legacy for 20, 30 years, for a lifetime to come. And that's when people started noticing, like, you're so young. How? I'm like, well, because I almost died, and I want to be alive. And that's part of the reason why I decided to become a pilot too.
Wow, what an inspiration. I mean, these interviews are always so cool, right? You expect a certain kind of line of questioning, and then you hear the entrepreneur, the CEO, the founder of a company, and the story behind it. It's just really amazing. So I love what you're saying. You get into the marketing business, right? And like you said, it's got a twist of sales. You were in sales physically, right, as a job. So tell us a little bit about kind of how you started to formulate your specific brand of marketing, and who was your target market? Were you going after just small to medium-sized business? Did you go after the big deals right away? Like, well, a little bit about that sense.
Because of that sense of service, I wanted to provide support to the small guy, right? I wanted essentially the value proposition started out with, this idea of becoming the outsourced marketing department for a small mid-sized company. of saying, you know what, there's no way that you can have someone in-house that has creative, content, strategic, visionary, SEO, SEM, website, all of those skills in one place. You essentially need 7 people to be able to do it right. And so that's when this idea came in. I'm like, what if I can provide all of that outsourced to an employee for basically less than what they pay for an employee a year? And it started taking off. And the word, I think people at the beginning kind of misunderstood my passion and my energy, because I've always been very passionate about what I do, and I love like life, right? I mean, I love life. And so my Caucasian counterparts, they were 20, 30 years older than me, a lot of my mentors. And I remember one day where I took one of my mentors to a meeting, and we left the meeting, and he said, Jackie, you said the word amazing in that meeting probably about 20 times. I think I counted 23. I'm like, wow, you had nothing else to do but count my amazing, And he's like, you need to, in business, you need to tone it down. And I got to my car, and I kid you not, I was like, number one, I didn't even realize that I was saying amazing 20,000 times. Number two, like, I don't think I'm faking it. I mean, I feel amazing when I'm telling them the stories and like making them like, So I called my other mentor on the way back home, and I said, hey, I was just told to tone it down. And my other Caucasian mentor, that had built a $35 million company at a very young age, said, absolutely not. In fact, I want you to tune it up. And I'm like, wow. So what started to become that unique factor was the fact that I was so animated and I produced results. And I think, fast forward, 15 years, as a pilot, as one of the few Latina licensed, pilots, a sports pilot in the US, I'm thinking, wow, I don't see anybody that looks like me in this license. And then I'm thinking, you know what? The plane doesn't know the difference. The plane knows that, you're soaring to the skies because it's made to do that. But the plane knows precision when you land. So that juxtaposition of like whimsical and pragmatic, where that juncture is what started to make, to this date, like that total magic and the total package that people are so attracted to. So I continue to this day to serve startups, medium-sized companies, small-sized companies, in being and now with the second business, which is a publishing company, when they want to encapsulate their legacy and all of that, with the intention of serving.
Well, how amazing was that, right? So really, really cool. I would say it's interesting to kind of hear, that you actually took the counsel from one of your mentors that literally was at the meeting with you, kind of tried to maybe in their own way, we always say, right, when you get into business, typically your family's like, oh no, be careful. Oh, it's going to be dangerous, right? And they may be doing it out of love, but they don't understand, right? And then you call your other mentor because you were wise in understanding that you needed a couple of counsels there, right? Yeah. And that person kind of re-energized, like, hey, no, like, go back to who you are, right? In fact, pour it on even more. And now you're relating it to becoming a pilot. So really, really cool stuff. So tell us a little bit, you start building a clientele, right? Did you start to figure out, I guess, certain different industries that were more powerful to the way that you marketed? Did you start to kind of create a specific niche in that? Like, what were some of the dynamics of that?
When I started, I was working in the hospitality sector. And as you can imagine, hotels and restaurants are very volatile when it comes to business, right? If you don't have butts in the seats, you're not making money. So it was like a day-to-day operation. And it was like, sometimes it was very stressful because, the client would expect X number of, patrons, and then a big storm would come in and nobody would show up, right? Everybody would stay home. So that volatility was not something that I wanted to be tied to. So I remember one of our clients in IT, he had an IT firm for small businesses, just like the ones we serve. I said, you know what? I've never done PR for an IT company,
Hmm.
but if you give me a chance for, I think I gave her like 50% discount. I'm like, just give me one opportunity. And he said, well, I don't really know what PR is. I'm like, I'll show you. That's, just give me a chance because you have an amazing story. And I want to share that story with the world. So shortly after, we did a 3-month campaign. We had like 15 media placements. This guy was blown away. He's like, holy moly, like, what'd you do? I said, well, I just needed a chance. That company single-handedly became the most amazing, continuous source of referrals, source of opportunities for us, referring over 100 clients in the
Wow.
in the next 10 years in IT, professional services, manufacturing, primary industries. And then we started getting a little bit into nonprofit. But essentially, I mean, we could pretty much do marketing for the Eskimos, right? The principles of marketing are the same. I created my own methodology about marketing because I've been in this industry for 20 years. And I know, the ups and downs and the trends. I've seen it all. I've done it all, from online, offline. It's like I have left a part of my heart, a part of my brain, a part of my soul in every project, every campaign that I've done over the years. And I live and breathe, marketing. And in this idea of this notion of activating hearts and minds, whether they're B2B, B2C, or anywhere in between, service products, whatever's required. So
It's interesting. Recently I was talking to a gentleman in the same field, and he's talking about now, I don't know if it's a new law that's coming out or some sort of regulation where the data mining from these companies, it's going to be hard because they can't be tracking you, right? Or something's coming out to that sense. So it's going to be interesting, some of the dynamics. I'm sure you've seen so much change in marketing and what you can and can't do, and what's worked in certain industries, and consumer buying, rhythms, and the way that they think and all that type of stuff, especially as we've gotten closer to our phones and everything, right? So tell me, I know I've checked out your website. You have a nice staff. You also, work with your husband, which is an interesting dynamic. Why don't we go into that? I mean, that's a cool piece of the puzzle, right? I think it's not always something that's recommended, right? But the ones that do it right just prove that you can work with your spouse. You can have that deliberate day-to-day 24/7 almost total immersement. So well, if you don't mind, I mean, tell us a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like not for the faint of heart, right? No, but you know what, in all seriousness, I mean, we have had an amazing run, with our, multi businesses, our little empire inspiration. I have been with my husband for 20 years. I have been, we've been married for it's going to be in about a week for 18 years. And we have been working together for 16 years as the sole source of revenue for our life, right? And so we always say, we work together, we co-dream, and we play hard, we work hard, and we've been at this for 16 years together. The year that he became part of the company was sort of like this, almost like it was born out of frustration, because of course I'm starting out and I'm bringing in different resources, different things, and different places. And I had hired 3 different graphic designers to do a brochure for a doctor. They all sucked. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's one of those things when you can see it, but you can't do it. That's why you hire somebody that can see your vision, right? I mean, I'm more like processes and systems, I'm very pragmatic, very nerdy like that, but I'm not an artist, in that sense. So I'm like, so one day my husband, who was working at a private country club, very young, and he was a bartender, okay? And we both came from the hospitality industry. He noticed that I was just getting this business off the ground, and I was very frustrated because I said, I cannot present this piece of, you know what I mean, to the client for the 3rd time. This is embarrassing. And I can't seem to find anybody talented enough to do it. So my husband stayed up all night, downloaded all the Adobe apps, all the Adobe stuff, it's like a monthly membership. And he took that was on my computer and essentially created a complete new version of this brochure. As I was waking up, I mean, we had a little baby, my daughter had just been born. So I, been up all night in this, so he came back to the room and he's like, there's a surprise for you. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, right? All night. But he's like, there's a surprise for you on the computer. I looked at it and I said, OMG, this is exactly what I had here, but I couldn't say how I wanted it, right? And I was newer too. I didn't know maybe how to express, creative stuff, like I know now. I'm like, I see it, 2 seconds. I'm like, I see 20 things, 20 possibilities. But it wasn't the case. I was 23. I never worked with another agency before. Just like, I want to serve, I'm gonna do this. And it was amazing. The doctor was like, wow. That year, we grew 56%. The same IT company that became an angel to us and became like this fanatic, follower, believer in us and the talent. He's like, who in the world is doing your graphics? Where others, I would have to provide 2-3 concepts. This one, the first one, he's like, if this is your husband doing it, if he, whatever he says, we'll do. First take. So that saved us a lot of time and effort and money.
Sure.
And then that started happening with other clients to this date. 16 years later, they said, whatever your creative director comes up with, it's like first take. I love it. Yes. Thank you so much. You guys rock. Like you nailed it. It's unbelievable. So that's how we started.
Nice. I love it. So look, I mean, ultimately, that's one example of not only family and love, but gosh, I mean, to make that gift of downloading, learning it, same night producing, and then symbiotically, like through the energies of what you guys both had, he understood what you were looking for. And what a great way to then bring them onto the business. And what, 16 years later, you guys are like, tied at the hip and everything you're doing. It's so awesome. It's really, really cool. So look, I mean, growing a business, scaling and kind of seeing the next levels is very interesting, right? So you started in hospitality. You get this IT business angel because you were willing to say, hey, just give me one shot, and you did it. So what are some of the things that you could share with the Go for CEO community when you think about like taking that shot, like, growing the business, scaling? What are some areas of how you've been able to learn to grow and scale and take a shot at companies?
I think one of the most beautiful things that an entrepreneur can do is basically documenting your worth, documenting your value, documenting your knowledge or experiences, and translating that to service for other people. Because, I always say you can be in the room with billionaires, but if you don't figure out a way that you can add value to them, you will never have access to that abundance. So it's always in the sense of service, right? In the sense of everything is with people, through people, and for people. So if you, as an entrepreneur, can get out of your own head and figure out, what I have, how can that be of service to this specific audience? How can they be raving fans about the amazing value that I'm bringing them in their service, right? Because trust, the definition of trust is knowing that someone has your best interest in mind. And how beautiful is that? To create an environment, to create an ecosystem where people know that, they feel it, and they experience that. And if that happens, then they will trust you. They will open doors that you would never imagined. So I think to me is always about documenting, encapsulating, packaging your beautiful talents in the service of others. And then you'll achieve abundance without a question.
Phenomenal stuff. So look, I mean, I really appreciate, obviously, you making the time. I mean, I think a lot of times it's really just getting to know someone, and like you said, building that familiarity, comfort, and trust, right? With clients, with vendors, with, your employees. So, as you started building your staff, your team, what were some of the things that you did to kind of just maybe attract good talent, keep them? What are some of those areas of opportunities that you can share nuggets about?
I think, the initial sort of, thing, I mean, when you create a business as an entrepreneur, all of your core values become the culture of that business.
Hmm.
And as you continue to grow that, that culture permeates from the top down. So I think, for me, it was being authentic. It was listening to my second mentor, not the first, and being passionate, but also being relentless about, creating efficiencies, creating processes and systems. And I think the best thing that can explain is my mindset as a pilot, right? And I'm like, why do I love piloting so much? Well, I love that because I can be closer to God and be whimsical and feel the air, the wind beneath my wings, right? And I can feel that navigating in a three-dimensional space. I mean, using goosebumps and land, over 400 times, but then, looking at the cockpit and being a nerd of the electrical systems and the fuel pump and the air, the altimeter settings and the angle of attack and the, center of gravity of the plane. I mean, I love that. So I think that when I started encapsulating that, people realized she's different. And to be honest with you, I've never gone out and said, I want to hire this employee. They've come to me. Sometimes they come in to, as an intern, because they said, I just want to be part of your magic. I see what you do. I see that you're creating a long-lasting, impression, a long-lasting memory in people's, sometimes people don't even know my name and they're like, oh, what is your name, ma'am? Oh, I remember your energy. And by the way, what is your name? And this is like from 20 years ago, right? And I think an entrepreneur is able to fuel that energy constantly every single day, just like you eat and you work out and you do whatever you need to do every day. You renew your energy so that the same energy is encapsulated in a beautiful way that allows other people to say, well, I want to be part of that energy. And I think that's when you attract, loyal, amazing, powerful talent that sticks with you through thick and thin. And that's what I've been able to do.
A good mentor of mine said, hey, John, things are caught, not taught, right? So if you just caught what Jackie just shared, right, it's that law of attraction that she put out there and allowing that to be the energy that brings the right types of people around her. So really, really awesome. That was good stuff. So, all right, so let's get nitty gritty, right? The way that we typically kind of end our interviews is CEO. So client experience, engagement. It could be with your vendors, with your employees, with the people around you, and then operational excellence, which obviously the nerd outside. I'd love to hear some of that as we didn't really get too much into that side. But so give us a high level. All different areas of your business, what is it that makes a big difference when it comes to client experience for you?
What makes a big difference is for us to recognize that just like we have a sales process, the customer has a buyer's process. And I think the foundation of that is allowing the creation of an environment where they feel like we have their best interest in mind. I think once you have that, the rest of it becomes merely semantics, an onboarding process. It becomes a reconfirmation of those core values that attracted them to you in the first place and confirming that over and over again, right? With your actions, with your words, with their deliverables. And I think it's always about, even if you cannot deliver something at a certain date, is recognizing how you're able to reset expectations. So that, that open communication is absolutely key. And it's, sometimes it's pushing them to see things that they don't even see that they could possibly do. And sometimes it's holding them back and say, hey, don't go and, because you're going to fall like right on your face. Like, don't do that. Right. So it's this idea of a trusted partnership and confirming that every step of the way. That's where I have found the most amazing success, long-standing relationships, raving fans, ambassadors, and really, relationships for life. I mean, they've become my clients, my friends, my part of my life. So it's just been an amazing journey. I love what I do. 3 weeks ago, I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, here in my house, and I'm thinking, I had this amazing session with this multi-million-dollar entrepreneur out of California, and just so inspiring, right? So I'm like, I came out of the office and I'm like jumping with joy, just extemporaneously, completely unexpected. I'm like, I just feel this like amazing energy. I'm like, I love what I do. I change people's lives. I awaken their, and then I look and my kids are here, 12 and 16-year-old, they're in the kitchen like, Mom, are you going crazy? I'm like, maybe I am, but I love what I do.
That's awesome. What a cool experience. I mean, some of those times when it hits you just in your core and your soul, why not, right? Why not jump around? Why not share that energy? And especially coming out of your office, that's a cool culture to be able to, like, other people are like, hey, what's going on? So really, really cool stuff. So engagement, I feel like, you've shared quite a bit in this interview of just kind of why people really connect to you. Obviously that law of attraction is a huge thing. Your mindset, that little 7-year-old girl in Mexico City learning and reading and just contemplating the world, and then obviously making the jump to come to the United States and flourishing from there. So what would you say is just top level things of engagement, of how a vendor engages with you, how a client engages with, how your employees engage with you? What about engagement for you?
Oh my God, engagement, I think, is everything, right? Just like we have, if you, from a marketing perspective, right? If you have an email blast and you see, oh, wow, 40% of people open the email. Well, that's one metric. But when you see that 30% clicked on something, that is engagement. That is them taking the next step to build a relationship, right? And the same thing in life. And this is a local author here in Chicago. His name is Steve. I can't remember his last name. But essentially, he talked about creating encounters with people. So not transactions, but creating encounters, so that every time you have the opportunity to be face to face, to be in a conversation like this, how are you intentionally preparing, visualizing, and contributing to that encounter, so that the next time you meet, your relationship goes to the next level? And you continues to do that, right? It's like unlimited ways that you can continue to solidify the relationship, solidify that with thoughts, ideas, invitations, added value, box of chocolates like we send to our clients, flowers, when they least expect them. Those are all the things. Another example of that is that you've got 5 people standing against the wall, and you had to identify the person that was the most grateful. There's no way, by what they're wearing, just by seeing them, there's no way that you could identify that person. The only way you can identify that person is by their actions. And in order to identify them by their actions, you need to then create an environment of observation, right? And what does somebody do? Because you do what you believe in, right? If you believe in family, you're going to take Fridays off a little bit earlier. You're going to make sure you don't miss your kids' games. You're going to make, and that's engagement, right? In all levels, right? A client will respond to you quicker. A client will show up, when you need them. A client will say yes because they trust you, they believe in you. A client, will always have their best interest of you in mind as well. And you'll continue to create encounters throughout the lifetime of that relationship. So,
wow. I've never heard 100+ interviews, someone describe engagement, through the verbiage and then connection to encounters. So really, really cool stuff. That's something I'm going to probably replay 100 times just to burn it in my brain. I really enjoyed that. Last one is operational excellence, right? So part of the CEO formula is client experience, engagement, and then operational excellence. A lot of times you can get all the sales in the world, all the marketing in the world, right? But if your operations in the back end, if you're not, functioning correctly. I just met one of my buddies that became a COO of a pretty famous company out here in Chicago. And one of the first things he did in the first 3 months is operations, right? Like he saw some things that were just broken, and now they're just humming, and they're going from 7 million to 100 million probably in the next couple of years, just because he tweaked some things. So what are some things from the marketing agency perspective, the PR, your author business? What are some things that you do operationally that just kind of are standing above and beyond?
One of the biggest things is the implementation of technology. I have devoted the last few years in implementing technology and really recognizing the value of seamless creation of a systematic approach for business. So I spend a lot of time encapsulating processes because in the marketing, with the marketing agency, it's a little bit tougher because a lot of people want sort of that customized. But it's easier to do with a publishing company, right? Because regardless of the type of book, we already know the systematic approach of these 9 steps that we take. So the way that I do that is, again, another concept with, believe it or not, aviation. Because what happens when you are up in the air? Problems get smaller, the earth blurs beneath you, right? And you can see the magic word, objectivity, right? And this is the reason why other businesses bring in experts, consultants, bring people from the outside so they can help them see something that might be on a blind spot for them. So being a pilot allows me to become objective in what I call zoom out. So if you're investing your time, it's almost a concept from Michael Gerber, right? He said you can work in or on your business. Zoom in, zoom out. That's how I call it as a pilot, right? Because you can be zoomed in so much that you lose track of the objectivity and track of where you're going. Or you can be so far detached from the day-to-day operation that it does not allow you to see how you can create efficiencies. So my goal all the time, and I tell this to our team members, is to have a perfect combination of intercepting between zooming and zoom out, because where those meet is where you find all the answer. Getting stuck into a project and not creating regular intervals to step away from that project to see if you're actually going in the right direction. If I were flying an aircraft from Chicago to New York, and if I put a magnetic heading, if I deviated from that magnetic heading at the source by 2 degrees, I would end up in Washington, D.C. So it's those simple things, but if you are not taking regular intervals to zoom out, to see the big picture, to eliminate drama, to be present, to see connected dots when the dots might not be visible or present, then you're going to get sucked into a windmill that is never going to stop. So that's how we do it. Zoom in and zoom out. And where they meet, that's where the magic is.
I love it. I love it. What a cool experience to have you on the Go for CEO channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to follow Jacqueline, right, and all the media sources that she has and all the social media. And, she's got obviously some incredible content. She's got incredible things that she's doing. So, Jackie, why don't we share with them, where to, I guess, connect with you? What's your favorite way to, interact? What are the websites, those types of things, to be able to kind of share with them those aspects of your business?
I love that. Well, I think, the best website would be jackiecamacho.com, JACKIECAMACHO. You will be able to see a little bit of my inspiration empire, my 29 books, a lot of exciting things. And of course, all of my other brands, from the publishing house to the marketing agency to my world in aviation, and even a productivity journal that you can use for your business too.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, Jackie, thank you so much for coming on to the Go for CEO channel. One of our goals is to have you on every 6 to 12 months, just kind of reconnecting the story, right? Letting our audience know, like, hey, where's Jackie at now? What is she doing with the publishing, the author business, all the things that you're doing, how are you growing, all that type of stuff. And then, giving us a little bit more of the nuggets and secrets that you are doing to impact the world. So really appreciate it. Any last words?
I leave you with my favorite quote that I'm known for around the world. Taking off is optional. Landing on your dreams is mandatory.
Wow. So say that again.
Taking off is optional. Landing on your dreams is mandatory.
Boom. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, Go for CO community. Why don't we leave smash the like button. I mean, this was an incredible interview, and share it throughout your social media. Leave a comment for Jackie, and I know she'll be able to interact with this video, and we'll do some shorts where I'm excited to clip some of these nuggets that you just gave. I mean, I was thinking like, pop, that's a short, that's a short, that's a short, little things that you were sharing. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Did you enjoy it?